Hey guys, in this video, we're going to talk about why you think you don't have time to sew and how you can change that so you can enjoy this new hobby regularly. So when I post videos and talk about sewing projects and all that, I kind of get the same comments or the same myths about sewing. I get the comment a lot that I wish I knew how to sew, I just don't have time to learn. And to me, that's a cop-out. One, how you know you don't have time to learn if you haven't tried it. And two, at the end of the day, we make time for what we want. In today's video, we're going to talk about how to change that mindset, because that's what it is, how to change that mindset and the strategies you can use to make it easier for you to sew on a regular basis. As a working full-time mom, sports mom, a person who creates content on the interwebs, and a person trying to take care of herself, I understand that it feels like we don't have time. There's just so much going on in the day, so many responsibilities that we have to take care of. You go to work, you do the thing for work at like 8 hours, you come home, maybe you cook dinner, maybe you help your child with their homework, maybe you clean up the home or something like that. That is all very generic generalization domestic work, and I'm sorry for that, but maybe this is true. Maybe this is your life, because it's my life. When you get home and you're doing all these things and 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever hits, you're tired and you want to go to bed. I want to go to bed. We all want to go to bed. So I understand it. It is very hard to fit something into your schedule that is not necessarily keeping people alive or keeping the system moving. So yes, it does feel like you don't have time because you're doing everything under the sun. And what is adding one more thing? But what if I told you that's not actually the case? Or what if I told you that we can shift some stuff around to make it happen? So first, let's cover why you think you don't have enough time to sew. It's very easy to write something off and keep it as it is what it is, and that's all there is to it. But when we do that, we close ourselves off to so much. We close ourselves off to opportunity. We close ourselves off to growth. We close ourselves off to potential that we have not unlocked yet. You think you don't have time to sew, and that is what you're fixed on, and nothing about that can change. That is a limited mindset. That is you saying nothing else can change, and that's all there is. A limited mindset is a way of thinking to where nothing can change, nothing can grow. It is what it is, and that's all there is to it. The problem with that is it closes you off to opportunities. It closes you off to growth, developing, writing a new story for yourself. It leaves no room for change. And how that relates to sewing is if you declare you don't have time, you're not actively looking for time. You're not actively trying to figure out, maybe I do have time. Where can I put it? Where is it at? When you have a limited belief, you're just locked into that mindset and you're not changing it. The next reason why you feel you may not have time is because of perfectionism. And let me be honest, I suffer from this sometimes too. But we want everything to be perfect. We want it to be right. First time, no mistakes. And making mistakes clearly would prolong it, make it last longer, and you feel like you're wasting time. Perfectionism is where when you do a task, you want it to be perfect right off the bat. You don't want to make any mistakes, or if you do, you want them to be limited and you want to get through it quickly. When you feel that you can't do it perfectly, you don't want to use the time to do it at all, because that time can be used for other things. For me, it's really watching TV, but that's besides the point. So perfectionism holds you back because, again, you're not open to growth. You're not open to the lessons that are going to come. You just want it to be right off the bat. And how perfectionism relates to time and sewing is, you know that sewing takes time, but you don't want to use all the time that it will take to like go through mistakes or fix something or learn something. You just want it right away. You don't feel like you have the time to make the mistakes. You don't have the time to learn. You don't have the time to essentially waste on something that really isn't going to be right. That is a challenge, because very rarely will you ever get anything exactly right the first time in sewing, but it's also can be discouraging. Like, you feel you're using all your time, your valuable time, and if you're getting it wrong, what's the point of this? Why am I here? Why am I doing this? The third reason you think you don't have enough time is because your schedule is fully loaded. You're doing everything under the sun, and adding one more thing will make you implode. You are running around for the kid, you're running around for your significant other, you're running around for work, you're running around hopefully for yourself, honestly, but everything is filled. Every slot, every time slot is filled. You have a mental calendar schedule running in your head, and it feels like there's just not enough time in a day already. So of course you're not going to have enough time to add something else new to the schedule. I know I touched on it earlier, but it is an actual thing of You feel like there's just not enough time in the day to do something. Yes, we all have the same 24 hours as Beyonce, but Beyonce has help, okay? Beyonce has a team, great for her. I don't have that team. So right now we're just doing with what we can, making it work how we can, doing the schedule that we can. And sometimes, oftentimes, a lot of times it feels like I don't have enough time to just sit here and sew something, okay? It looks like you don't have the time for it. And I understand that. Luckily for me right now, I know how to sew, so I don't have that intimidation of learning something new on top of adding it to my schedule. But if I did, I'd have a strategy, which I shared in this video, the strategy I'd use if I were learning to sew in 2025. So if learning to sew is something you really want to do and we can get past this I don't have time mindset, check that out, okay? With all that said, if we're being honest, at the end of the day going in, okay? I'm just kidding. At the end of the day, we prioritize what we want. We can make time for what we want. And if we want to make time for sewing, this is no different. So instead of thinking that you don't have time to sew, let's lock into some strategies and get you underway. So the first thing you can do is add it to your schedule. Yes, you've been looking at your mental schedule and that's why you feel you don't have time, but let's add it to the actual physical schedule. For me, I have a calendar. Usually it's right there, but I'm changing stuff around / it fell off the wall and I have not put rubbing alcohol on the wall to erase the sticky, whatever. Usually I have a calendar, a month calendar on the wall, and then I have my planner. It is an Any Edit planner. My planner lists out my day from the hours. I can actively look and see what I have planned for the day, where each hour is designated, whether it's designated for work, whether it's designated for the child, whether it's designated for home or myself. And I can see where my time is actually going. And when I feel like I can sew up something for the day, I write it on my calendar. I make it a priority. It is an appointment that I keep with myself to do. And that's what shows me it's a priority. If I write it down, just like I write down doing the groceries, washing my hair, taking the kid to softball practice, it is just as important as all those tasks. And that time is blocked out and reserved for all those tasks. And when you do that, you also want to stick to it. Don't just write it on your calendar and not show up for yourself. Don't say at 7 o'clock you're going to sew and 7 o'clock you're not at your machine sewing. This, one, proves to yourself that it is not a priority to yourself. This is you lying to yourself and losing trust with yourself. So set that appointment, get there. Also, it doesn't have to be a long time. You can honestly get so much done with 15 minutes a day. Think about it. You do 15 minutes Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Stick with me, I gotta do math. 15 minutes, 30 minutes, 60 minutes, 75 minutes, 90 minutes. That is 90 minutes a week of sewing if you only did 15 minutes a week. You commit to that 90 minutes, that hour and a half. Yeah, that's right. You commit to that hour and a half. That hour and a half is more than 0 minutes a week. So even the smallest amount of time will get you somewhere than nothing, okay? So don't think that you have to come in here and be like, I have to sew all day. I have to make 2 garments in a week, yada, yada, blah, blah, blah. That's not the case. Do what's comfortable for you. And if you only have 15 minutes a day, that is 15 minutes you deserve to yourself to work on something that you love doing or that you can love doing or that you're growing to love doing. Second thing you can do to get rid of this mindset that you don't have time for sewing is to communicate with your circle. Communicate with those who are around you, who you interact a lot with, basically who you live with, so you can have the time. With me, I interact with love, I interact with the kid, and I was bad at this before, still not that great at it, but I am trying to communicate the time that I need or the space that I need to finish a project. So again, with the schedule, I've scheduled it out beforehand. I know where I'm putting the time to sew, but I've started to communicate that with them so they know when I plan to sew, so they aren't distracting me, asking for too much stuff for me to do. So if I say I'm going to sew at this time, please respect me enough to not interrupt me or to do things for yourself. That is why we communicate. So everybody's on the same page with the same expectation, and you aren't feeling resentful to your family because they won't give you space and let you do the things you want to do for yourself. Do they still bother me? Yes, but they are not asking for the moon and the sun during my time. They are probably just asking for a star, you know? Okay. What's harder to get, the star? The moon? It's all hard to get. Why am I asking this? The third strategy to use to get rid of this I don't have time for sewing is to give yourself grace. There's a lot of pressure in the sewing world, in the sewing community, that you have to show up like the people who sew 7,000 things a week, the people who are making their whole entire wardrobe in a day. the people who buy all the new patterns and sew all the new things to, I don't want to say stay relevant, but to stay on trend, all that. You do not have to be that person. Sewing is a hobby. It can be a profession, whatever, what have you. But as a hobby, it is something for you. It is something you are doing for joy. It is something to be therapeutic, uplifting, challenging, all that jazz for yourself. So the only timeline you have to follow, and I have to follow, speaking to myself, is the timeline you set for yourself. If you feel that you aren't sewing fast enough, give yourself grace. If you feel that you aren't doing what you should do or should be doing, give yourself grace, okay? Whether you're learning, whether you're experienced, there is no rule book to this. There is no guide for you to follow, okay? As long as you are happy with what you're doing, that's all that matters. So if you can only sew once a week, if you can only sew once a month, if you can only sew once a quarter, once a year, and that brings you joy, then let that be it. Give yourself the grace to enjoy this process. Learning to sew only works if you do. It only works if you get it the time and the respect that it needs. Again, it doesn't have to be a buttload of time. It can just be a little time, all right? In today's video, we talked about the fixed mindset of feeling like you don't have enough time to learn how to sew, and we covered strategies on how to combat that and to actually work through that mindset. So if you stayed this long and found this video helpful, go on and hit that subscribe button. My name is Delea. I'm a designer and a sewist, and on this channel we do sewing tips, design vlogs, and pattern reviews. So if that sounds interesting to you, make sure you hit that subscribe button. So if sewing is something you still want to do and you feel you can get through the limited mindset, go on and check out this video, the strategy I'd use in 2025 if I were learning to sew today instead of when I did a while ago, okay? It is full of tips and it'll help you get the roadmap on how to do it. Until next time, guys, keep designing your best life. Bye.